Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's edition of the Daily Debate, we're going to be talking about the latest terrorist operations, the terrorist attacks that took place in Sinai Peninsula, mainly northern Sinai, and the armed forces operations that have been going on ever since, up until today, actually trying to uproot the terrorist elements and extremists in Sinai Peninsula. And joining us here in the studio to shed more light on this issue is Mr. Wael Nawara, the political analyst, and we're also joined by Dr. Samir, Ragheb, chairman of the Arab Foundation for Strategic Studies. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our discussion, let's check out this report regarding the military airstrikes that killed almost more than 100 terrorists since Friday, actually, up until today, and we'll be right back.
At least 100 terrorists were killed in airstrikes carried out by the military since the early hours of Saturday against terrorist targets in Sinai, in retaliation for the killing of 12 army personnel on Friday at a checkpoint. Earlier in the day, the armed forces said in a televised statement it pursued the criminal and terrorist elements who implemented the terrorist attack. The airstrikes targeted the hideouts of the armed terrorists involved in Friday's attacks and all areas that harbor the elements, along with the weapons and ammunition depots that were destroyed in the airstrikes, which lasted for 3 hours and were still ongoing. At least 40 terrorists were wounded in the air raids. Military sources said the airstrikes had bombed 3 suspected terrorist bases in Rafah, Sheikh Zayed and El Arish cities. The attack took place in the central Sinai area, 40 kilometers from the town of Bir El Abd, as a group of terrorist elements attacked the checkpoints with rifles and automatic weapons. The army in return killed 15 terrorists on Friday. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said in comments published on Saturday that the country's war against terrorists in Sinai would be long, but that conditions in the vast and arid region were improving. In an interview with 3 state-owned newspapers, the president said government forces and terrorists were getting better at fighting each other in the strategic area bordering Israel and the Gaza Strip. Responding to criticism that the military might be distracted by its growing involvement in large civilian infrastructural projects, el-Sisi sought to reassure Egyptians that the armed forces remain committed to their core task. He said the military's role in the economy would recede in the coming years. The army is playing an important role in development, but the role will diminish in the upcoming years when it will have finished its plan for the reconstruction of state infrastructures. The president also justified military spending, including on 2 Mistral helicopters carriers from France, on the need to defend a recently discovered gas field in Egypt's territorial waters.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off our discussion now, Dr. Ragheb, talking about the terrorist attack that took place on Friday. Now, let's try and analyze the situation a little bit. What about the timing, the significance of the timing for this attack? Is there some sort of a reason for the timing? Is it, are they trying to target the tourism season in Sinai Peninsula that is just about to start? Are they trying to avenge the death of one of the terrorist leaders that the armed forces said they killed last August? Is there any significance of the time, or is it just something that has been not randomly picked for the timing, but just planned for with no specific reason for the timing?
In all terror attacks, we must consider the political motivation, because without political motivation, it's ordinary crimes, not a terror attack or not a terrorism. After toppling of Morsi, then all the faction of terror groups like Tawheed Jihad and Takfir al-Hijra, Shawqiyin, Nagun Minnar, make a coalition of terror groups and unified under the umbrella of Ansar Beit al-Maqdis, ABM. From this point forward, we encounter an escalation of terrorist attack against army, against fortified places, and the assets belongs to the nation. In addition to the targeting of ordinary people which cooperate with the authority against the terrorists. During October, we celebrate of October victory. Also, we have a conference for the Parliament anniversary of 150 anniversary of Egyptian Parliament. Also, we have the common committee of African and Arabic Parliament, also in Sharm el-Sheikh. This coincides with invitation for 11/11 demonstration and turmoil. Also, the day before the terror attack, we celebrate with one of the heroes, Islam, and his mother address, a televised address, call for all the Egyptians, for the mothers, that our victims pay the tax of the blood for this country. Which make sympathy with all Egyptian people, mother and father and brother of this of Islam. In this time, we the days before or the months before, we have separated the attacks, but not with this size. Also, you know that ISIS in Iraq, in Mosul, encounter and vast operations against for liberating Mosul. Also in Syria, we have a campaign against Dabiq, is the capital of the caliphate. So we have several reasons for this. Also, the terror group try to take any chance to make this propaganda, because in terrorist attacks, the potential target not is the main aims. The aims is the audience for the result of the attack, not the victim or victims themselves. So in these days, the world speaks about that there are a very good achievement in security field in Egypt. Also in last weeks, Sisi has 20 group committee, joins the 20 group committee, joins the United Nations General Council. And every meeting with any counterpart, of course, speaks about we have achieved a lot in security. Also, America speaks about some achievement and provide Egypt with 750 vehicles, anti-mines and anti-explosive improvised explosive devices, which is essential for the forces to protect our soldiers and our forces. All of this and another regional conflict between Turkey, between Qatar, this make all the required circumstances and the motivation for ABM or IS, because we have a direct affiliation agent in Egypt for IS, which makes the terror attacks in Nile Valley, like in Italian Consul, and the assassination of the Attorney General, Prosecutor General, and many trial for assassination, the assistance of top prosecutor in Tajama, in East Cairo district. This open a question that we encounter every day.
Yes.
Does terrorism eliminated? The answer is no.
Yes. Well, we're going to definitely talk more about it later on in the show. Now, Mr. Nawara, Dr. Ragheb mentioned a lot of reasons, a lot of circumstances that could be considered a motivation or a reason for such an attack to take place. But we're also talking about Sinai Peninsula. We're talking about everyone in Egypt, and the institutions have been talking about how safe and secure Egypt is becoming slowly but surely. Sharm el-Sheikh hosted very important conferences, the meeting between the Egyptian, Arab and African parliaments, talked about the celebrations of the 6th of October, talking about any concerns regarding the 11th of November. So all of these things would prompt you to expect that the security situation would be on high alert during these times, especially in Sinai Peninsula. So if all these things are taking place, everyone's talking about the safety and security in Egypt, and the armed forces and the security forces, the police, everyone should be on high alert. Why such an attack is allowed to take place, especially that it's not the first of its kind? We've seen such attacks taking place before over the past few years.
Well, it's very difficult to totally eliminate these terrorists, because they mingle with the civilians. They don't wear uniform. That the nature of terrorist organizations is that they could have somebody in your building and you don't really know. It could be your neighbor, it could be even, you know, God forbid, a part of the family. And they dress like everybody else, they talk like everybody, they mingle with the people, but in certain times they go and have these meetings or have these plans or plots to carry out a terrorist attack. So I think that it is impossible to totally eliminate the terrorist attacks, but what we have seen over the past 3 years is that we have seen a decline. You know, if you see the curve of the whether in Sinai or in other parts of Egypt, there is a steady decline, and I think this is what we should be looking at, is to see the decline and also to learn from the mistakes, to improve the tactics, to improve the methods to protect our soldiers, to start gathering more intelligence, to work on the ground with the tribes in Sinai, because Sinai is it's still a very tribal area. You have to work with the tribes. You have to solve the grievances. There were lots of grievances,
yes.
Especially in the last 15 years. Certain maybe security measures which were taking after certain incidents, I think, created hostility and created bitterness among some of the families. So we need to also work on that, work on the economic development, work on opening a dialogue with the young people in Sinai and with the heads of tribes and with everybody in Sinai. People have to feel that there is an effort to actually restore normalcy and develop Sinai and improve the conditions for everybody. And on the security side, I think that the rate is declining, and what we see now, as my esteemed colleague was saying, is that they are trying to send a message that, a propaganda kind of a media message that we're still here, we can inflict damage and we can inflict terror. But in fact, I think they are losing slowly that attrition war.
Well, you were talking about working with the tribes. Now, in the height of the combating terrorism in Sinai, there was agreements between the government and the armed forces with the tribes in Sinai and the tribe leaders. Now, how well has that been working? Do you feel that the armed forces and the government has been really benefiting from such a cooperation? Do you feel that it started off really well, but then, in a way, with the decline of the terrorist attacks, it sort of faded out?
I cannot really claim to have concrete information about this, but there are sometimes mixed signals. Sometimes some of the tribes, we hear that some of the tribes are giving unconditional support. Sometimes we feel that some of the tribes say, we didn't get what we were promised, and that life is harsh, and that we need, other measures.
Yes.
So, and naturally, the nature of these efforts have to be confidential. They have to, they cannot be, because as my colleague was saying, that whenever it is known that one person or one tribe is cooperating with the military, with the security, with the police, they become a target themselves. And
yes.
You protect, for example, the heads of the tribes. They would go to somebody else in the tribe, because they're always trying to send a message. It's not about they will hit where it's at a weaker point, and there will have to be a weak point. So people have to go to school, people have to go to the market. So practically speaking, we cannot really say at this moment if the effort with the tribe has really totally succeeded. But again, we can see the consistent decline, and we urge not just the security, we urge everybody, including government, civil society, private sector, everybody is to do their best in trying to work on developing Sinai wherever it's possible. Of course, certain areas it's impossible, for example, to put investment, but try to do the best possible under the circumstances to try to help in the situation.
Yes. Well, Dr. Ragheb, you've mentioned those responsible for such an attack. You've mentioned many different groups under the umbrella of Ansar Bait al-Maqdis, for instance. Yes. Now, the attack last Friday, it was all over the media outlets, was really attached to Daesh, and then later on Ansar Bait al-Maqdis claimed the responsibility for the attack. Now, what sort of a difference does that make? Is a terrorist element under whatever name? Does it have different calculations within the security forces if one group claims responsibility as opposed to another group claiming responsibility? Does that mean anything domestically of who is in charge, who's pulling the strings for these attacks here on Egyptian soil?
Yes. In November 2014, ABM Ansar Bait al-Maqdis make affiliation for ISIS. From this time, he worked in two approach. Domestic approach, which may be different than the approach of ISIS. ISIS assumed control of the stronghold area that he seized. Now, in Egypt, we have the legal authority, we have police and army, intelligence apparatus. So, in Mosul, in Raqqa, in Syria, in Iraq, there is no direct operation against the army. Also, ISIS in Iraq and Syria avoid to make a direct operation or assault against the army of the regime. In Syria, most of ISIS war against faction, like Al-Nusra Front, like Syrian army. In Sinai, the matter is different. Also, the faction composed ABM in Egypt has a different motivation. Most of them against apostates of the regime, not the religious status of the civilian, because the tribal tradition make a restriction to make aggression or violence against tribes. In Syria and Iraq, a foreign fighter. In Egypt, we can say the foreign fighter came from Gaza. In Gaza, the same tribes in the both sides of the borders. Also, in Sinai, concentrate against the police in the beginning as a matter of retaliation, not a matter of tactics of terrorism. Because after the Arab Spring, we have border guard. Also, the situation in Libya deteriorated, and the smuggling of gun and ammunition reached to Sinai. Also, it's composed of criminal syndicates and smugglers. Not all of them motivated ideologically, but they exploit the circumstances, the criminals, to join this chaos. The matter is different. Most of speakers treat the matter as a unified organization, not a unified organization. So that I told you, we have several enemies in this battle. Not ABM. ABM has a multi-approach, but IS provide them with the media support. Not on all the operations. Give them the highly experienced people. Give them the leaders or the moral leaders, but not give them the plan of the operations. Take this for the domestic leaders. And also IS explored the matter of ABM to declare its existence in the Africa continent, also in a big and large country like Egypt.
Yes.
To exploit the media propaganda. Because if Shabab organization in Somalia make no one speak about it, but in Egypt all the media will transfer it, and the concept of terrorism depends, like what I said, in the audience, not the target victims. They don't care about the victims.
Yes.
And it's not the matter if the victims is 15 or 20. It's assault against a military assets.
Yes. Well, Dr. Ragheb, talking about who's responsible now, a lot of people were pointing out at the occasional opening of the Gaza border crossing. A lot of people are saying, well, no, sometimes the financial support, I mean, the media support is easy because you can do it from anywhere in the world. But what about the financial support? What about the tactical support? Where does it come from? Is it left for some domestic personnel, leaders within the peninsula? Where does it come from? Does it come from ISIS, from the west? Does it come from the Gaza border crossing from the east? Where does it come from?
I am against this approach because the experience and the leaders is already over there. During the chaos, they cross the tunnels and already over there.
Yes.
No one imagines that they wait for someone come across the legal cross point.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. Also, the tunnels not eliminate 100%. It's ridiculous. Already after the Palestinian-Israeli treaty, during Morsi time in 2012, Hamas tried to keep control against jihadism, to do not make trouble with Israel and violate the treaty. In this time, there are a group of extremists with the same name, Ansar Beit al-Maqdis, which is a leader is Dogmush. Then they choose to cross the border and exploit the chaos in Sinai and the vacuum of security and military in this time. Also, the Israeli-Egyptian peace treaty constrained the number of force and the armament of forces. Everybody know. After Sisi and before Sisi time, the Israeli allow for more troops to join. In this time, they already exploit the matter and begin the first assault against police station in Arish in 11 of July 2011. Assault which lasted for 8 hours without any assistance, because in this time we have the revolution turmoil in everywhere in Egypt. In this time, this, the name of this group is the Black Flags, not Ansar Beit al-Maqdis. After this, they take the chance and exploit the circumstances.
Yes.
Like Mr. Wael speak about negligence, about what so-called cognitive dissonance, the contradict between what you deserve and what you get.
Yes.
Get from health care, from education, highly unemployment. Also, the Salafist ideology is common in this area. In this time, we have a faction, a political faction, reach for the power. Before toppling Morsi, began to provide them with the finance.
Yes.
The finance not from Gaza. Gaza need finance from all over the world. We have Turkey, we have Qatar, we have Muslim countries that we treat a matter with several faces against terrorism in face, and maybe provide terrorism with some finance and equipment.
Yes. Well, Mr. Nawara, now, after the attack, we saw the armed forces carry out airstrikes where it attacked many terrorist positions and bases, destroyed a lot of their assets, took out a lot of their elements. And this is not the first time we see such a move by the armed forces. But why do we actually have to wait for an attack to take place to see an immediate response by the armed forces? Why did we, I mean, if the armed forces already knew about these bases, already knew about these people, or at least the whereabouts of them, why did we actually have to wait for an attack to take place? Why didn't we already do that even before such an attack to take place, even when the terrorist attacks were on a decline in the past period?
Well, I can't claim to read the minds of the military leaders, but there could be any number of things. First is that any attack poses discomfort and this inconvenience and hardships for the innocent people who live there. There could be collateral damage, there could be disruption of normal life, there could be any number of things, and again you have to selecting the time is a strategic matter, and selecting also the proportionate response is also important, because they are giving a message, the terrorists are giving a message that we can hit you, and the response is okay, you have managed to hit us here, but we will make you suffer for it. So it is also important to have this kind of concentrated campaigns, and choosing the timing for the campaign. It's important to have justification, because if you just suddenly start bombing here and say, no, there are lots of, and people say that even now, lots of innocent civilians, and these are only suspects, how did you attack them when you're not sure of this? So there are many complicated elements, collateral damage, the justifications, the kind of psychological feeling, and also definitely when you have an attack, then you have also intelligence, you have satellites which are provide you with maybe some images, or this came from here, or some eyewitnesses, you know, they identify some of the leads. So you build in that and you start your campaign. Of course, I much prefer that as anybody else, that, you know, the campaign is, you know, continues until they are totally eliminated. But practically speaking, what happens is that they just go back after a while and mingle with the population. So, but when they are mobilized, then this is when it's easier to hit them. They are mobilized to have an attack. They have, you know, because you remember in certain instances, after an attack, if the attack is successful, then they send more waves of attack, because they want for a while to even claim territory, and they, you know, have some media filming that they are controlling the roads in certain areas, and checking, you know, checking the identity of the drivers and so on. So again, it's a media war. So in a situation of attack, usually they are mobilized, they are preparing. So this is when it's easiest to separate them from the population, then, because they are mobilized in certain area. Because you don't want to go and start bombing, you know, indiscriminately, start bombing some, you know, houses or some farms, and then the collateral damage is unbearable, and then you turn people who are with you against you, because they know, for example, for sure that, you know, majority of this hit, they were innocent people. So one has to be very tactical, and again, it's difficult for us sitting here in the studio to grasp all the dimensions of such a decision.
Definitely. Well, collateral damage is one of the reasons why a lot of people are saying that's why the combating terrorism in Sinai Peninsula is a lengthy operation. It will take a long time. But how long do you expect it to take? Because if we are unable to continuously somehow neutralize or take certain individuals one at a time, bit by bit, and we actually have to wait for them to mobilize, how long do you think that would take?
Again, judging by the curve we're seeing, I think that we're talking years rather than months, because again, it's if you have some determined small number of individuals who are determined to inflict damage, and they have the commitment and the ideology, and they have the kind of desperation. You know, remember, many of these people are already. They can be classified as suicidals already. So they are desperate people. They have suicidal depression. They don't no longer have anything to lose. So they are you know, willing to trade their lives for some you know, reward. What is the reward in, you know, in monetary term, or reward as some religious leaders, you know, promise them that they will be rewarded in, you know, in paradise, or whatever the stories they give. So we're looking at years, and the way to shorten these years is to take a comprehensive approach, is to go hand in hand with the security and military tactics and strategies, is to go along with that with social work, economic development, reaching out and trying to really build a strong consensus amongst the people that this is what has to be done, and encourage people, provide protection, because otherwise the people can feel that you know, we will be whoever wins, you know, because things are not very clear. You have to make things clear. You have to make it's clear that we will win this war, and we will be able to protect you. We are working with you to develop this land, and to restore peace and normalcy in these areas.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, since then the operations have been going on, and the numbers vary from maybe 12 to 19 terrorists were killed, but unfortunately, tragically also, about 6 soldiers have lost their lives as well in these operations. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
6 soldiers and 12 terrorists were killed in armed clashes in Sinai on Monday morning. Security sources said terrorists believed to be affiliated to Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis had ambushed an armored army vehicle on the main road to the village of Abu Tawila south of the town of Sheikh Zuwayed. A captain identified as Abdullah Ali Naguib, age 28, and 4 soldiers were killed in the attack. An army commando killed 3 gunmen after they opened fire at the armored vehicle. Meanwhile, a lieutenant identified as Mahmoud Faris, age 25, was shot dead during clashes with gunmen at the village of Al-Makata south of Sheikh Zuwayed. Sources said the officers from the city hit a booby-trapped vehicle with an RPG shell as it was approaching checkpoints outside the town police station, killing 2 people inside the car. According to security sources, the vehicle was loaded with 2 tons of explosives. Sources added that army forces detonated 2 houses near Sheikh Zuwayed police station, killing 7 gunmen who were hiding inside. On Sunday, 7 Egyptian troops were killed and 14 others injured in a spate of terrorist attacks in Sinai. 5 army troops were killed when the terrorists attacked their patrol in North Sinai city of Sheikh Zuwayed. Snipers also shot dead an army officer as troops raided a village. In another attack, a roadside bomb struck a police vehicle as it was passing in the southern side of the city, killing a policeman and injuring 2 others. Meanwhile, 12 troops were injured in 2 separate attacks in the same city on Sunday. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attacks, which came only 2 days after 12 army soldiers were killed in an attack on a military checkpoint in Sinai. In response, the army launched airstrikes on what it described as militant hideouts in North Sinai. Military spokesman Mohammed Samir said early Monday that 18 terrorists had been killed and caches of weapons seized during the operation.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion now. Dr. Ragheb, a lot of people are talking about how to deal with this situation, the terrorist elements and the terrorist situation in northern Sinai. One of the common answers a lot of political analysts and observers are saying is that we should really head to investment and the development of these areas to take people off their extremist ideas, get them busy, get them making money, get them developing and really formulating a purpose for their lives and for the Egyptian economy as well. Now, if we're not expecting the situation to be resolved 100%, to have security and stability in this area 100% for in the near future, wouldn't we or shouldn't we worry about actually trying to develop or work or embark on many economical and developmental projects in this area? It might be sabotage. It might even be seen as new targets for these terrorist elements to attack.
Yes. In the beginning, I told you that no one can eliminate the terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
What we can do? Make it understood. Also, we must know what is the motivation. We have 2 questions must be answered. What is the tactics, which is military and intelligence and police can do it well. The other, what is the causes of the terrorism? What make ordinary people convert to be terrorists? The motivation include the development, include the correction of the wrong interpretation of Islam. Also, the security approach not make good with all the cases. If someone has a bad idea or wrong idea, the matter is not the gun, it's not the army, it's a matter of ideology. Treat the ideology, by the correct ideology, not to put him or them in jail or custody. The matter is how to, it's not a matter of the army. It's a matter of a culture, it's a matter of Al-Azhar, it's a matter of breaches, it's a matter of NGOs. About the investment. If you treat the matter with the ordinary swathes in Egypt, or areas in Egypt, it's wrong. I speak with Bedouins and leaders in Sinai. They speak about to the agriculture how to provide the water for agriculture, how to provide a small project will not be target with terrorists because they consider the tribal culture. Not to talk about to make a factory or make a project, and also the investor will not make this risk to visit or make investment in a region. All the media outlet describe it outlaw area. It's not a secret.
Yes.
In New York Times, in Washington Post, any news about it must be headed with outlaw area. To convert Sinai, North Sinai, but South Sinai, we have tourism, we have investment, but from the west to the north. By the way, I'm afraid to end our meeting and don't mention what the goal of Ansar Beit al-Maqdis and the other group. The main goal to destabilize the area and make it ungovernable. In the other side, the Egyptian authority till now success to make it governable, not 100%, but we have police station, we have hospital, we have schools, we have municipal authority. Like Mr. Wael said, if there is no government, then the flag of ABM or IS and the media propaganda, then we have Islamic province for IS. And this achieved also. During the beginning of 2015, we have a complex and multi-target operations. In this time and in 2040, we have a paratroop, a paramilitia that have a heavy weapon and attacks. Even they have some flight umbrella to target from the air. No doubt that this capability degraded for the level that is an ordinary terrorist group like what we encounter in 1997, like 2004 in Nuweiba, Sharm el-Sheikh, Taba. This not the solution, but like what you said in the interview, that we must work for resolving the issue. To resolve the issue, it's a multi-dimensional approach, which is a security approach, a development approach, a culture approach,
ideology,
economy. Unemployment is a problem. But to be practical, we must say that we must do all this within our resources.
Yes.
We have a shortage of resources. We already have devastated economy. To be practical, we can say good words and send a message that the state must do, but you know, some people provide us with ammunition, armament systems, but for fighting terrorism, but we need economical support. Because we can't reach for this. By the way, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi devoted 10 billion for development Sinai. And he said that we make roads and make development under the assault of terrorists. It's a big challenge. Also, we have a support from over the world, and the world understand what happened in Egypt in 30 of June. But also some of our friends, especially United Arab Emirates, provide us with financial aids and media support for Egypt. But we must mention that without the effort of our heroes from the army and police and all the security apparatus, we have the Syrian model in Sinai, that we have not outlawed area but an Islamic province in Sinai.
Yes. Well, Mr. Nawara, talking about fighting it, how to deal with these attacks, now talking about the economic assistance, talking about development, talking about dealing with receiving a lot of arms and weapons and ammunitions. Egypt will now receive certain helicopters, terrorism countermeasures from the US. We're also getting Rafael airplanes from France. So, and the money allocated, just as Dr. Ragheb mentioned, for these developments. But what about really dealing with the culture, fighting the ideology with the ideology? It seems like it could prove to be the crucial ingredient to fight this phenomenon, but it is quite lengthy. It will probably take the most time in actually getting into the extremist ideas and culture of some people and changing it 180 degrees. That could prove quite lengthy.
Well, I think that, again, we need to turn to the people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, things which are directed from top to bottom, usually don't work alone. So
mm-hmm.
we need to try to get the society itself to work. So some of the ideas, for example, is encouraging small enterprises, encouraging entrepreneurial work, not necessarily through the traditional rules which we have, for example, for loans, or you can give grants. Can give grants, maybe 50% grants for small projects, agricultural projects, training projects to train people to become more employable. Even in the cultural aspect, give grants to NGOs made by or erected by the residents and the people of this region. So I think giving grants, giving assistance, technical assistance, giving also some privileges. For example, holding some shows here or expos in Cairo for the products of Sinai, or for the agricultural products of Sinai, mm-hmm. encouraging, giving untraditional assistance in terms of access to markets, access to technology, access to funding to the people themselves. And remember, what many of the Western countries do is that they give grants to certain organizations in order for them to promote their ideology. Mm-hmm. So this is usually what happens. You want to promote, an ideology of tolerance, encourage the people themselves to start their own NGOs, to start their own training centers, to start their own cultural centers, to mm-hmm. start their own arts centers, to start their own, even local radio, local newspapers, and stuff like that. People will start working and they start producing, and it will come from them, rather than sending preachers or sending who speak a language and people just like turn their backs and go. But mm-hmm. if somebody from the land itself start a project, start an initiative, start an art, some kind of an art project or a cultural mm-hmm. project, or even an Islamic center for promoting the tolerant brand of Islam which Egypt has always known. These things, if they come from the locals with assistance from financial assistance, technology assistance, administrative assistance, marketing assistance, all of these things, mm-hmm. it would be very difficult for the terrorists to target, because they know that they will pay a heavy price when they start targeting their own people.
Yes.
And also the absorption and the influence of these projects will be huge, because it's coming from the people themselves. Mm-hmm. Remember what's happening in a place like, for example, Sharm el-Sheikh. We're all proud of Sharm el-Sheikh. But Sharm el-Sheikh was an example which actually left many of the residents of Sinai bitter, because they saw all the investment is coming from Cairo or from overseas, and the people in Sinai, they're doing nothing. They're maybe go to some safari or something and buy some tea or buy some meal. But most of the projects themselves is done by people who are not residents. I'm not saying that others from other parts of Egypt should not be going there, but that they have to also focus on giving some privileges and encouraging the people of Sinai themselves to start their own projects.
So both of you agree that a lot of assistance should be given to the actual residents of Sinai.
Absolutely.
Because terrorist elements actually really respect, and they do know that this is some sort of a red line, that they can't really approach these people, they can't hurt their livelihood. Do you feel the government has been doing enough in supporting the residents, the tribes, with technical assistance, agricultural assistance, cultural assistance?
I think it remains to be seen. I think until now, we haven't heard, for example, about this expo for Sinai products or agricultural expo for Sinai agricultural products. Although, in fact, North Sinai, they have, some very distinguished fresh produce, and also handicraft products. I think we can work more. I'm not trying to belittle the work that has been done, but I think we can work more in a more innovative approach. Forget about the idea of the loans. Start just giving grants, grants to ideas. Not just grants. No, don't throw money. Grants to projects. If you finish this, we'll give you, we'll help you.
And monitor the project.
Exactly. Monitor the project. Make sure that the project is going and keep the incentives coming. You finish this part, we'll help you to start maybe an outlet in the Delta, or an outlet near Cairo or in Alexandria or other parts of Egypt. Start helping them start their businesses, grow their businesses, and in the meantime, they start attracting young people to work with them. They start talking the language of success, the language of productivity, rather than talking the language of bitterness, the language of revenge, the language of desperation. We have nothing to lose, so we'll just, do whatever is left for us. And also, it becomes very easy to recruit people for petty cash. When you have, you're asking about the funding. Of course, there is funding. How can you get all these weapons and all of these 4x4 vehicles? And we've seen all these things. At one point, they had this, light planes, even small
light planes.
para planes, and this all means money. So inject money in the opposite direction. Inject money into productivity, into success, into working, into training, into NGOs, into cultural center, into art, into production of material which reflect the heritage and culture of Sinai. We don't want to impose any external culture. But remember, again, this Salafist culture is in itself, it's imported. They did not think like that before. They were, they had their own tradition and they had their own way of life, which was beautiful, and it was wonderful. But now you see the situation is because we have neglected Sinai for so long.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, definitely it's a battleground, not just terrorist elements and the armed forces, but also it's a battle of ideologies, culture and developments that's been taking place in northern Sinai. Our deepest condolences to all the armed forces and security victims and their families for these ongoing operations since last Friday. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank our very distinguished guest, Dr. Samir Ragheb, Chairman of the Arab Foundation for Strategic Studies. We'd also like to thank Mr. Wael Nawara, the political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.